Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about the best heroes in the game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about the best 5 things.
And I'm Matt Kell, the blog master of CardTalk2018.com, where I review the card pool one card at a time.
An epic journey.
Very epic journey.
Once you get done with the player card pool, you can move to the encounter card pool, which is 3 times as big.
They better get that life extension thing figured out then.
Yeah, right. At once a week, that puts you you just have to be as old as Methuselah in order to do that. Anyways, hey everybody, that's good to have you back. We are going to try to tackle our Nazgul in the recording software so we can bring you what Card Talk thinks is the best 5 heroes in the game. And, of course, Ted would say that this is a highly definitive list. It cannot be argued with, nor would we think anybody disagrees with what we have to say.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. But just so you know how we did this, for our Extravaganza month, I just sent out a survey to all the members of the Card Talk team. There's 5 of us, and we wrote down our bests and worsts. Mainly we're going to focus on the bests, but we'll throw in some worsts there too, because why not? And so we just compiled that data, and now we're going to talk about it.
The Card Talk Council,
yes,
has been assembled.
Right. Bum 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 banana banana. Anyways, should we get started talking about the best heroes in the game?
Yeah, why don't we just dig into it? Because heroes, unlike cards, you get to start with them in play.
Right.
So you can, they're always going to have a thing that they do. Yeah. So that's cool.
Right. And I think, so everybody knows, I think the arguments usually come at the bottom of the list. I think there's usually agreement at the top of the list where people are like, oh, I agree that these 2 or 3 people should be on the list. And then, it's like, who makes the last couple of places? So
yeah, it's kind of how the last episodes have been.
Yeah. But, with the best heroes in the game, it's kind of an interesting thing. So here's what I'll do. I'll start by saying that there was one hero that had 3 of us voting for him. I could say him. And that's Elrond. Now, is Elrond one of the 5 best heroes in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that Elrond is really good without Vilya, and then Vilya just makes him overpowered, right?
Yeah, you don't even need to make a Vilya deck to make Elrond good. He's just high statted. Both his abilities are consistently useful. So
yeah, that resource smoothing is so good, and then he can be a quester or a defender, and he's not terrible at attacking, but usually it's like you need those other 2 more so than the attack stat.
Yeah. His traits are good. He can have Light of the Valar then to use both stats and Unexpected Courage. He can wield a Burning Brand to be a awesome defender. So he just does a lot of things all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Which feels good because he's Elrond. So you're like, okay, right. He's doing things.
Okay. The other hero that had 3 votes was Gandalf. And Ted, you're the original Gandalf guy, so probably, right? I read Matt's card review this week. He was like, "Hey guys, I'm using hero Gandalf."
Give us the highlights, probably, Matt.
But
Yep. I mean, Gandalf just does a lot of things too. Like Elrond, he's got really good stats. His ability lets him resource smooth, so he can splash into a lot of decks. Like, really only barrier to that is his high threat, which is true of Elrond too. But
Yeah.
I mean, as the game has progressed, we have a lot more low threat hero options to kind of mitigate that. Or even Valor. Like, you could just start in Valor if you wanted to and build a Valor deck around him.
Yeah. He's just his ability a little bit tricky, I'd say, for new players, but yeah, his high stats are great, and his ability to see the top card of your deck is like extending your hand size,
right?
Too, like,
and you're able to play that card off of the top of your deck. So, like,
exactly, right? So it's like he's constantly sort of drawn you an additional card.
Not to mention, like, certain cards like Daeron's Runes let you thin your deck if you can play even more if you can play them from the top.
Yeah, he can play them, just as if they're in your hand during different phases, and then all of his toys are amazing. Every card that is attached to Gandalf is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
His
so just
ring,
Gandalf belongs on the list, right?
Yeah. So he's quite strong, I would say.
Okay, and so three of us put Elrond and Gandalf on the list, and I think that there's not much argument with that. And then two of us picked Galadriel and Grimbeorn. So I love Galadriel. Matt's gonna laugh, but I love Galadriel. I think Galadriel.
If you love her so much, why don't you marry her?
Maybe I will. But that may not be a thing. I'm not suggesting we compare Galadriel to Grimbeorn, but those were the ones that two of us said should be on this list. So
yeah. Yeah, Galadriel is also quite good. Which is interesting because of her innate drawback
is to not play the game.
Is to to have a hero that is, you cannot use her stats initially. It's crazy. But her other abilities make up for that, and it's not just in one particular deck archetype, though she shines in a few of them. Virtually any even just like a mono spirit deck, she's just good because eventually, you get to a ring and being able to help players draw cards and lower their threat. Those are things you consistently need in decks. So I do think she belongs on the list. It's my
Matt. Do you have any? Can you counter that?
Yeah, my main counter to that is that you can't use her for willpower stat off the bat. Like, you really have to draw Nenya to do that. And that's what keeps her out of a lot of decks for me, is like, I am reliant on that one card if I'm counting on her as a quester. And that's primarily a solo problem, right? Because you need that 4 willpower to get going. And it's also kind of a action disadvantage for a solo player because now you have to have another hero to add that 4 willpower to quest with.
Those are fair arguments. Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna stay out of this. Let's move along to Grimbeorn then. Before
who put him on the list?
Two of us.
Yeah, I put him on my list too. But I've played with Grant a lot and seen him in action a fair amount, and it's just so good. Be able to attack back is just pure action advantage, and also like pseudo shadow control, because any shadow effect that's like giving them an additional attack, if you kill them in that first attack, that shadow is gone.
Yeah, or if they retreat to the staging area, it doesn't matter. His ability still works and targets them. So he is quite strong. I think I put Baragon on my list, and I think because Grimbeorn requires the maintenance of money,
right?
And usually
in the sphere that doesn't have a lot of extra
Yeah.
resources to
Yeah,
do it, so.
and there's a couple heroes that that do generate, like Moblong and Hirgon can save you money, but he is a very, very strong defender, sure. But I think I lean more on Baragon. But like, is he good enough to be in the top 5? Like, also yes, yeah.
Yeah, Baragon I still like a lot. I even like probably his tactics version over Spirit just because of that free Gondorian shield.
Yeah, see,
I
he's
feel
like free money instead of costing you extra. But Grimbeorn is still strong, very, very strong, for sure.
Yeah, I usually end up giving him this slight advantage because of like I said, the pseudo shadow control and like enemies attacking from the stagey area starts propping up in some of the later scenarios and things, and you
Yeah,
can take them out from there, which is a huge benefit as well.
he fixes those problems for sure.
I would lean more towards Grimbeorn than Baragon, but Ted, I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Baragon. But
I mean, to me, either one of those could easily be top 5.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just my experiences lately with Grimbeorn has really risen his stock for me.
Like for sure though, like Grimbeorn, he even with like one really Baragon 2, he doesn't need any. Well, they both need attachments to be the best they can be. Grimbeorn maybe a little more so, but
yeah, that 3 defense you usually need a little bit more, but he has the 5 hit points, which kind of offsets it because he has such a big pool to just kind of soak a hit.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think he does still belong. Like he's for sure up there.
Okay. Seems like we're more in agreement on Grimbeorn than we are with Galadriel, but I didn't really chime in with Galadriel. But
well, our council is now majority vote. We now have an odd number, so it's
yeah.
Well, it takes 2.
That's right. Well, let's look at a few others before we go on this. Before we go down, okay. Tactics Eowyn only had 1 vote, but I feel like Tactics Eowyn gets a place on this list. Like, I'm the only one that put Tactics Eowyn on the list.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that.
A part of that is my criteria of I wanted people who were a little more mechanically interesting, like pure power wise. Yeah, Eowyn should be on there. She's a good value for the 6th threat you initially start with.
Yeah,
and
you can't,
her ability is just crazy.
You can't argue, like just 6th threat. I don't know. I've come around on a lot of these heroes. Gandalf may be the one that's most surprising, but Tactics Eowyn is definitely 6th threat, 10 attack. You can use that twice, without doing anything, right? Because you can exhaust to attack, get the bonus, ready her, attack again.
Sure.
Like
she has a neat party trick. We've talked about her a lot.
Yeah, and I think that she has a place on this list, but I'm surprised that y'all didn't see that.
Yeah, no. I'm just as surprised with Tactics Aragorn. He's probably my number 1 played hero, and he surprised me so much. I remember reading his article and being like, we already got Aragorns. We don't need another one. I can pull enemies away. Oh, and I just use Legolas ranged. But then you play with them and you're like, holy Middle Earth. Like it's crazy. He is like Grimbeorn, where he fixes all these problems. The enemy goes back to the staging area. It doesn't matter. It goes to another player. It doesn't matter. It's even better than ranged, because if you have heroes that attack locally, as I say, that aren't ranged, you pull an enemy towards you to then use those stats instead of having an entire ranged lineup in multiplayer. And then his minus defense ability is just icing on the cake, because he essentially has 4 attack, and then you put a Rohan Warhorse, and his ability is not limited. Like Eowyn's once per game, he can just pull multiple enemies as many times as he readies. which is insanity. The higher player counts you get, the more actions you give them.
Here's the one thing I can't. I mean, let me be honest here for a second. Tactics.
Because you were being dishonest up until this point.
That's correct. Tactics Aragorn didn't even make our list on the best tactics heroes.
I know. I didn't even fight for him. I was just yeah, but I should have.
So I mean, we can't include a
We
hero.
can.
No, we cannot. So I'm actually going to go through and cross off all of the heroes that weren't on our list to begin with.
Best 5 to begin with.
Yeah,
for spheres.
Right, and that doesn't discount Tactics Aragorn. That just discounts you
You're
as
just
a list
discounting him
maker.
right now. You're crossing him off the list.
Yes, I am. That just means you.
Just because he's a Dunedain?
Yes.
I feel like he's more a multiplayer hero, right? Solo, you're not usually getting swarmed by tons of enemies all at once to where you want to pull them down from the staging area.
You guy, I mean, even in 2-player, even just in 2-player, like
that's still multiplayer.
Guys, in your solo ship.
I tried. I really wanted to use Tactics Aragorn when I did Heirs of Numenor. So I had built a mono tactics deck with him, Tactics Eowyn, and Baragond.
Aragorn will take an enemy ship from the staging area and engage it. An entire he just throws some kind of harpoon and then pulls the entire ship towards his own ship.
All of that is true, but none of that is going to get him on the list because you didn't fight for him earlier.
You jerks.
He can't be on the list if he's not on the list. How's that? Okay. So I'm going through and actually crossing off all of these.
I see that.
Yeah.
Michael will be sad about Frodo leadership, but
yeah, well, I'm sad about it too. Does Sam make the list?
He's good, but not like, I don't know if he's top 5 good.
I'm there as well. It's just like I think when he came out, he was a much better value proposition. It's kind of the same reason that Tactics Eowyn is, like strong willpower, low threat. But like we've gotten more people that are similar in that regard since then. And so now he's kind of like,
okay.
Just
here's
below.
Here's what I think. I think that out of all the hobbits, Sam is probably the best hobbit.
I'll agree with that.
But I don't know if the hobbits are the top.
Are we doing an episode on top 5 hobbit heroes?
No. But that's the thing, right? So, I don't think hobbits are going to make the top. Any hobbit is going to make the top 5 heroes in the game. Although Sam would be the one if we're going to get that. Like if we go that deep. But so I'm crossing Sam off the list. Okay, so now here, let's go through this tactically, so to speak. Okay, so Grimbeorn versus Legolas, who's better?
Grimbeorn.
Yeah, Grimbeorn.
Okay, so can we get rid of Legolas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
As much as I love his ability to kind of advance or get rid of a location out of the normal questing phase.
Yeah. Now,
he's kind of become more of a role player in that regard.
Yeah, Grimbeorn and Legolas. Now that's great. But Grimbeorn or Legolas. Okay, so now Grimbeorn versus Tactics Imrahil.
Ooh, Tactics Imrahil's friggin' sweet, and I love to play him. And he's quite strong. But looking at what's coming up on the list, man.
Yeah,
he's good, but maybe not top 5 good.
Yeah, I like his mechanics and everything, but if as terms of like universally good, I think Grimbeorn fits that spot better. You like to use Tactics Imrahil's ability, you really have to think about like, am I including these allies in the deck? Where Grimbeorn could do like Voltron or 3 Hunter style decks, or even just splash into other types to be your defender.
Right. Okay, so I'll get rid of Imrahil. See how easily this works. Okay, and then we discussed Grimbeorn over Tactics Baragond. I lean towards Grimbeorn versus Tactics Baragond. And, because of that attack back, playing solo, like, you just can't beat the action advantage, built-in action advantage.
It's good for sure. So yeah. I'll concede and give it to him. Like I said, he is very, very strong.
He is. Okay, and then I'm gonna leave Tactics Aowen out of this conversation because she's a whole separate, she's a whole separate thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, what about Grimbeorn versus Spirit Dying?
Yeah.
Like now we're talking defenders as opposed to attackers.
Yeah. You may be surprised, but I think defenders are super good.
What?
So...
You waited this long to come out with that?
I know I haven't said it much before on the show. I think Spirit Dane can also potentially make the top 5 because I think these defenders are that good, and he is. We've said it before. He's good with nothing. You can just play him.
Right.
Heroes that are good with no need to draw anything are, I think those should be top 5 heroes.
Yep, and Dane is always one of my top picks for a defender. It just kind of depends. It's like, do I need 6 defense without any help? Like the scenarios that start with like a 7 attacking enemy or things like City of Allfast or something like that. And it's like, yeah, Dane needs to kind of try out this first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Dinah's just really good. Okay, so let's not cross him off the list. What about Glowin versus any?
No,
he's off the list, right? Like,
no. I know we put him on our other list before, but I would maybe change that.
You'd put Tactics Aragorn on the leadership list. Okay,
that's how good he is.
How about Arwen and Arwen and
Arwen also super strong. Goes right away, converts cards to money, and then Glorfindel also crazy. Like since he came out, he just goes into so many decks because he's low threat and high statted, and the game is numbers.
Okay, yeah, I'd agree with that on Glorfindel. I don't know. Arwen I don't play very much, and it's largely because 3 willpower sometimes is just not enough. You really need 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I would put Glorfindel above Arwen, even though they're both very good.
Okay. Can we get Arwen off the
list? Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can that. Yeah. If it's a choice between Arwen and Glorfindel, it's going to be Glorfindel because 3 willpower, but with his threat, like he could be your second questing hero.
Yep.
Okay. So look, we have 3 spots and 5 heroes to take those 3 spots. Okay. So we have Gadriel. Gadriel has to be separate. Okay. It's like, meaning like we can't compare her to somebody else in the pool. Right. And so it's Gadriel, Grimbeorn, Dine, Glorfindel, and Tactics Aowen. Like that's who we have for 3 spots. Now, does Gadriel fall better than in that list? Does she fall like, or do we get rid of her because she doesn't let you play the game?
She had more than 1 vote amongst our council, so I think she stays for that reason.
I would pick the other 4 over Galadriel for just about any deck. I usually use her as I want to find a card, and so I would play her with Mirror, or I have some specific use for the willpower boost in mind.
Yeah, you can do some kind of janky things with that.
See, here we go. It's there's an argument here. I mean, I agree with Ted that because with Galadriel, you do not have to play her with the mirror and this, the silver harp and all this stuff. You can just play her.
You do got to play her with the ring, though.
Yeah, you got to play her with the ring.
You don't have to, but like, it's really good.
That the whole like allies come into play and don't exhaust a quest the first turn, like. as a hero, I don't know if you knew this or not, but like if you have an objective hero or an objective ally, like I don't know, Iarion. Iarion comes into play the first during setup and won't exhaust a quest during that first round because that's the way the ability works. So I mean,
never considered or played with it that way.
yeah, I mean that's so. It's I mean, it's very strong, and that kind of the fact that all those allies get action advantage the first round, Matt. I don't know. I think Galadriel should be on the list, but that's just.
I mean, it's really great in Sylvans when they're bouncing in and out of plagues. You can consistently trigger that a lot. I don't know. I tend to play ally light decks, so I don't get to trigger that very often. It's also why she doesn't end up in a lot of things that I play.
Sure.
I try to even discount that ability.
I don't know. I'm gonna not cross her off the list yet. Okay.
Although I would say that Glorfindel is probably more universally good because it's like you put him in the deck and he just goes even with his disadvantage thing. You're like,
You could basically quest for 5 turns and still be at a discount to what he would normally cost.
Yeah. I would actually probably put Glorfindel over Galadriel, and then I would fill the last spot with Dane because again he just goes.
Well, we have 2 more spots. So if you did Glorfindel, Dine, and then there's who's the third spot would be Galadriel, Grimbeorn, or Tactics Eowyn.
Yeah, I would put Grimbeorn over Tactics Eowyn. I know you're gonna die on that hill, David, and she's good, but it's just kind of weird. It's a weird thing.
I would give the advantage to Grimbeorn, just mechanically more interesting.
Here's what I'll do. I'll put Grimbeorn on the list.
The council's ruled 2 out of 3.
I'll put Grimbeorn on the list. Okay, and then and get rid of Tactics Eowyn. Okay, and then what are we gonna do with the other 2? Did you say? Now we have Glorfindel, Dine, Grimbeorn. Oh, Grimbeorn's on the list. And Galadriel.
I would say Dane goes on the list again. He's just strong, and I do think Galadriel is super good. And I 2 of us voted for her, so that has significance. But now that I think about it a little bit more, like Glorfindel he'll just go. He doesn't need an attachment to function, though. You're usually digging for Light of Valinor, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You're usually digging for that the same amount as the ring, and then he gets way better, of course.
Right.
And usually, if you're playing him, you're going to throw an Asphaloth because it's one of the best location attachments in the game, or location control attachments in the game.
Yeah. Right. So I would actually bump Galadriel for Glorfindel, and then I would put Dane on the list.
Do you agree with that, Matt?
I agree with that. I like Dane a lot. Just because the Dwarven mining mechanic opens up so many pseudo card draw options, and the discard recursion that's so strong in Spirit. It's like you can run Reforged and stand and fight and just be like, here, whatever Dane discards, I'll play later.
Plus, I think putting Glorfindel on the list, if you look at it, and then you're like, imagine making a deck, right, of any of those 3 heroes. A lot of them are high threat. Elrond, Gandalf, Dane. But so what would you do to compensate? You would play Glorfindel, right?
Yeah.
And I think we'd agree if you made a deck of Gandalf, Dane, they have natural synergy. Okay, Glorfindel, now you're at 30 threat, and all your heroes are super strong. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect setup for Journey Along the Anduin. Dane can defend the hill troll. You're going to engage it first turn. And be a Flame of Ardor. Gandalf might kill it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even if you subbed anything in that lineup, you did Grimbeorn instead of Dane. Deck still quite strong. Elrond instead of Gandalf, super good.
Right. Okay, so let me summarize here. So it seems like, and these are in no particular order. Just because we kind of all agree doesn't mean that these are it's ranked 1 through 5. But we said that the 5 best heroes in the game are Elrond, Gandalf, Grimbeorn, Dine, and Glorfindel. Now,
Yeah.
when Matt, Micah, and I did this, okay, the list that we came up with was Gandalf, Elrond, Tactics Eowyn, Grimbeorn, and Dine. So the only difference is Tactics Eowyn for Glorfindel.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, yeah.
So, I mean, it
I'm
just
fine
tells
either
you
way
that,
with those because they fill similar roles, right?
Right.
They're low threat, very efficient heroes with good abilities.
Right.
Or good toys to play with,
Yep.
you know?
So it's interesting. Like, there was a lot to discuss there, but it's pretty good. Ted, who, has been playing the game since lunch, is good stuff. So, the opinions there kind of very similar about how it was going to go. Okay, well, so
there you have it, the definitive 2025 list of the best 5 heroes in the game, as brought to you by Card Talk.
Okay, see you next week, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.